Hey friends and book lovers, welcome. Now you're probably seeing a much different background than I've had previously. I think in one of my last weekly updates, I told y'all that I'll be moving really soon. So for the past week, I took a break from YouTube, which I had to because we were moving and there was so much to do and I just didn't know where everything was. I'm still setting up my office/library, so that will be my future background when it's all set up. So hopefully in the next few videos you'll see that permanent background more, but for future reference this is gonna be my background for the next couple of videos as I set up that room. So hope y'all enjoy this one, and I might use this background whenever I do like reading sprints or like any live shows. So even though I have been moving and doing all the things, I am still taking a part in the Olympics readathon over at the Shelf Space Discord, which is a competitive readathon going on in the month of June based on the Greek gods, and the prompts are also based on all the Greek gods and their traits, etc. So I am part of Team Nyx, which is the goddess of night, and unfortunately this first week we came in last, which was so disappointing, seeing as how I was really busy and I think other folks were really busy. I don't think a lot of us got around to reading in that first week. It was also a shorter week than usual, so. But all those excuses aside, I have a lot on my plate to read for this week, and I'm hoping to knock out a bunch of these books and get our team out of last place at the very least. So I'll start with the books that I finished. So in the first week, I was only able to finish one book, and that was Alatzoe by Darcy Little Badger. And this is a middle grade or very young YA novel about a murder mystery and a girl who can reincarnate ghosts of things or people that are dead. So she has her old dog who's reincarnated as a ghost who she interacts with, and there is her cousin who gets murdered, and they go on a journey to figure out what happened to him. And this is a world with a lot of undead, so I used it for the Hades prompt, which is to read a book with ghosts or the undead. This book has both ghosts and the undead, so it was a perfect prompt for that, and I was able to read it on audiobook since we were doing a lot of driving back and forth. So that one was really cute. I think I gave it like a 4 stars, and I put a review on Goodreads, so I'll link my Goodreads down below if you guys are curious about that. Overall, it was a good read. There were certain things that I didn't love about it. There was a bit confusing at certain parts of it, and there was a lot of different maybe subplots or things, storylines in the story that I didn't really understand where we were coming from or where it would be going. It was hard to kind of keep track of everything, even though a lot of that did tie itself in at the end of the novel. What I really loved about it was the author created some really beautiful, vivid imagery, and I was just super captivated whenever she would describe like certain scenarios, certain worlds, certain realms. I really enjoyed that part of it. So I recommend this one to anyone who's interested in like Lipan Apache stories and folklore, because it was heavily based and written from the point of view of a Lipan Apache person. And since I don't know much about that culture or about those folklore or tales, it was really eye-opening just to read something, even a fiction novel about that, because there are tidbits in that, so that really enjoyed that. And I think it's also a really great book for like a middle grade reader. Honestly, it's so interesting. It's not too scary, but it's still really intriguing, and the audiobook is really fun and easy to read. So definitely a good one for kids for sure. The next book that I finished, this one's gonna go in the week 2, so it's gonna go for this week, was Poet X, and I used that for the Apollo prompt. So that's a book that's not written in a traditional format like verse or comics or manga, things like that. And Poet X is written in verse, and I read that one on audiobook too, and let me tell you, it is so powerful. And my only regret, which I put in my review, was that I didn't read it sooner, because it's so good. And this month I might actually go on like an Elizabeth Acevedo like book reading binge, because I just so enjoyed her book written in verse, Poet X, that I just kind of want to read her other book written in verse, which is Clap When You Land. And then I also have her other book with the Fire on High, which I think is just written traditionally on the Demeter prompt because it has food on the cover, but she's just so compelling and she narrates things so beautifully. She's so passionate, she's so emotional. It's so powerful, her voice, that I think the audiobooks from her are definitely going to be the way that I go in the future, even though I do have a couple of her hard copies. So those are some books that I will be reading this month, and I might be reading them this next week. We will see, but I just love her and I want everyone to know about her, and I want everyone to read the audiobook because it's so good. So now for the books that I'm currently reading, and there are a couple. I am still reading The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. I'm about 75% through, and I'm aiming to finish that one tonight, if not tomorrow morning, just because it's an arc. It's coming out, or it's already come out June 8th, but I do want to do like a video review. So my next video that you guys are going to see on Sunday is going to be a video review of that. So stay tuned. That one I'm enjoying. It does start off kind of slow, so I didn't love the fact that it was kind of slow to start. So it's not going to be a 5-star read. At least I don't think it's going to be a 5-star read for me, but I'm really curious to see how it's going to end, because that really could change the rating if I really enjoy it. The second book that I'm reading and that I just started a couple nights ago, or last night maybe, is The Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty. I'm using this one for the next prompt because it is the last book in a trilogy, and it is a chunky tome, and we can double our points for the prompts for our team. So of course I'm going to read this one, and I'm hoping to get it done this week because I would really love to put that increase in points for week 2 so that we can get out of last place, and hopefully I can help my team do that. But if not, these points are also going to go into week 3, but I have really high goals and ambitions for this week. So far, so good. I'm about 100 pages into this, and already it's like sucking me in, and I can tell that I'm probably just going to binge read this. So the chances of me getting it done this week are quite high. The next book that I'm currently reading is a comic, and that is Monstrous Volume 1. I originally was going to have this one for the Apollo prompt because it is written in a non-traditional format, and it is like 200 pages, but I decided to do Poet X instead because that one was just a little bit better for that prompt. So this one's going to be like a non-prompt book, and I should also be able to get through this one this week as well. So another book to add to my list. I'm not going to be reading a ton of comics for this readathon. It's really meant to be a lot more books and getting out of that. I know some folks have been reading a lot of comics and manga, which is a strategy because it gets you points and you get through them faster, so you get more points. But I do want to read actual books and longer books so that I get those extra points. But this, maybe Volume 2, are going to be the 2 comics that I read for the readathon, and I'm probably going to finish this one, like I said, this week. So it's going to be another one that I can add it to my list. And so I do have a couple on the docket for starting this week, even if I don't get them done. I do want to read Amari and the Night Brothers on audio, and that's going to go towards the Artemis prompt, which is to read a book with the moon or night either in the title or the cover. And since it has Night Brothers in the title, that definitely works for this prompt. So I'm probably going to start that audiobook this week. Even if I don't finish it, it'll definitely go for next week's points. I'm really intrigued by that. I know it's the author's debut novel. I've heard really wonderful good things about it. It's middle grade again, so it's going to be targeted towards a younger audience. I don't always enjoy middle grades as much as adult books, but I think it'll just still be a really cute read for me to listen to. So I'm excited about that one. And then I also want to start the first book in the Long Price Quartet, which is A Shadow in Summer. And I have the huge bind up of Long Price Quartet, but I'm going to be using A Shadow in Summer as one book because I'm never going to be able to get through all 900 pages of this and count that as one, which I think still counts for the prompt, just to read the one book and then have that as like the page count on Amazon. So I'll be doing that for the Zeus prompt. There is also an unofficial buddy read going on in the Shelf Space Discord for this one, so I'm going to jump on that as soon as I start, but I'm really excited. I've heard about this quartet from Alan's channel from Library of Alexandria, and he really compelled me to read this, so I'm very excited to finally get into it. And so those are the books that I'm going to be reading this week, and that I'm currently reading, and that I'm going to start reading at some point, and hopefully help my team get out of last place, because it is such a bummer to be in last place. And I just feel like now we're all very motivated to get out of that and to get reading. So we're all being very encouraging to each other to get our books read and just knocking off books. My goal for the month is to read like much over 7 books. Usually like my regular reading rate is like 6 to 7 books a month, and I definitely want to read more than that for the purposes of this readathon so that we can be in good standing by the end of it. So if you're participating in this readathon, please let me know down below, and please let me know what you're reading. I always love to know what you guys are up to, and if you read any of the books that I've mentioned, please let me know. I'd love to discuss them with you. If you like this video, please click that like button, and if you enjoy this content and you want to see more from for me, please do not hesitate to subscribe.